Yellow is joy. I grew up in a one-stoplight town in North Mississippi. Here I spent the happiest years of my life. I was so sheltered from the world by the invisible bubble that surrounded my town and by my family. What I dressed like, how much money my family had, never mattered to anyone. I was a tiny athlete playing soccer and softball, a singer at my school and my church, and a star student. I shined in this small town where it was so easy to stand out amongst only 30 other students. After school and in the summers, I would spend every day at my grandparents' house because my grandfather watched me and my sister. It was his job to protect over us, and when I asked why he didn't work, he always told me it was his arthritis, which of course I believed as a child. We were the light of his life, and he was the light of mine. We would spend our days outside on the farm, doing various chores and different crafty projects. Though my grandmother was the big crafter in the family, and she is the one who taught me to crochet. It was a family tradition passed on from her mother and many generations past. I too got this genetic disposition to be crafty and was always working on some sort of project of my own. My parents were just as loving as my grandparents, and all the days that I spent in that small town were filled with the joy, laughter, and love that yellow represents. The only true sorrow I remember in my childhood was the day my parents told me we were moving to South Alabama. Orange is change. Our move to Alabama changed my life for what I thought was the worst at the time. I had no idea the impact that this move would have on me and how much I would appreciate it later. I was all of a sudden opened up to this whole other world that was outside of that small town bubble. Moving to my town in Alabama was like moving to the city for me, even though it was more like a normal-sized town with the average 200 students per grade instead of 30. I had a deep southern accent at the time that I was surprised no one else had, moving more south and in one state over. Needless to say, I was shocked by the differences that this town had compared to my hometown. It seemed worlds away. This move was the biggest of my life, not because of the distance, but because of the drastic difference of a person it would allow me to become. These years quickly changed to what I would consider the worst years of my life. Gray is loss. As it turned out, my grandfather's reason for staying home wasn't because of his arthritis, but because of his heart condition. I was on Christmas break in the 7th grade when I was told that my grandfather had passed away. We were just about to leave for Mississippi to return to our old life for a moment when I heard the news. To say I was devastated would be an understatement. The pain of this loss lingered for years. 2 years later, my best friend attempted suicide, and even though she survived and got the help she needed, I felt the loss of my best friend. A year after that, I had to say goodbye to my dad so that he could get the rehabilitation that he needed. Going to school through these years and through these events was completely numbing. I felt so alone. Until one day, it seemed like the dust finally settled. I choose to recall these events in my life and how I felt about them purely to show how far I've come. My life turned around the day I decided I wanted to be in healthcare. Green is growth. Everything started to look up my junior year of high school when I decided to take an internship at a hospital. Here I met the friends that I had been looking for my whole life. I finally felt that same joy that I felt as a child, and that only grew when I went to college. My freshman and sophomore years of college, I still didn't know who I was, and that was something that made me really uncomfortable at the time. All I knew was that I had this overwhelming urge to help people, but I still hadn't found my why. When the COVID-19 virus hit, I didn't waste any time. I found every opportunity to be an active participant in making my dreams happen. There was so much personal and professional growth for me in these past few years of college, though I can't say that I felt truly comfortable in my own skin until this semester. White is light. This semester, I have become comfortable with who I am and who I want to become. My dreams finally seem like they're in reach, and I am so capable of reaching for them. A big part of this for me was seeing my potential and having the confidence to truly be myself. The first time I spoke in this class, I said that I was taking it because it was required and that I was a self-proclaimed nervous speaker. My first presentation was on my self-identities, and like I said, I had become comfortable knowing who I was, but I had no idea the effect that actually talking about myself out loud for what seemed like the world to hear would have on me. That vulnerability caused something in me to blossom. I noticed by the end of the semester, with the capstone presentation, that I stood up and my heart was still racing, but I wasn't nervous. I was confident in the work and preparation that I had done, and that was reflected by how I presented myself. I can say that this class has had the most impact on me out of any other class I've taken in my college career, because I was always capable of being great, but I lacked the confidence to be myself. I feel like I've finally been shown the light in a dark and uncertain tunnel. So thank you.